Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be with you this morning in Paris Air Lab. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to share with you Air France action and the many challenges we face in the decarbonization of our activities, and also the fact that those challenges can only be met through a collective effort across the value chain and on an international scale. I have some slides to show you. So to begin with, we acknowledged several years ago that decarbonizing our industry was not an option. It was an essential stake for an airline like Air France. Maybe you know that between 2005 and 2019, we reduced our CO2 emission in absolute value by 6%, despite a 32% increase in our traffic during the same period. Since then, there has been strong expectation from the general public, from our customers, as well as our employees. They push us to accelerate our efforts. So we are activating all the available levers. You can see the levers on this slide. The first one and the most efficient, where you can put your euros and you're sure that it's efficient for the planet, it's clearly the fleet renewal. So you see that we enter new generation aircraft like Airbus 350s, like Airbus 220s. You know that they emit 20 to 25% less CO2. By the way, they produce also 1/3 less noise, which is important. And they replace our older aircraft, 330s and 777-200s. At the moment, we receive more than one new gen aircraft per month, which is an unprecedented renewal of the fleet for Air France. Before the COVID, in 2021, the new gen aircraft accounted only for 7% of the entire fleet of Air France. Today, this share has reached 40%, and we expect 70% by 2030. This is a massive investment, more than €1 billion each year only for Air France. And if you look at the entire Air France KLM group, including Transavia, it's more than €2 billion per year. Then you have the operational measures. They cover all the actions that our pilots and our ground teams take to reduce the fuel consumption. For example, the one-engine taxiing that you all probably know, the electric ground power units, and all the AI-based tools that allow us to follow the shortest flight path. So those measures already allows us to avoid 4 to 5% emissions per flight on average. And we know that we have further progress to come. They will come mainly from air traffic optimization, especially through the single European sky that we all wait for and support strongly. The third lever that you can see is to develop intermodal plane plus train passenger transport. We definitely have moved beyond the traditional opposition between rail and air, and we focus on enhancing their complementarity. We're working very closely with our French partner that you maybe know, SNCF, French National Railways, to develop a joint product that we call Train Plus Air, that allows passengers to combine a high-speed train journey with a flight, medium or long-haul flight, all on a single booking and with a guaranteed connections, which is very important. Since 2020, the routes of Train Plus Air have expanded from 25 to now 41 routes, and we go on. In 2023, we introduced a fully digital customer experience on the booking. And in the beginning of this year, we introduced a word first, which is the fact that our Flying Blue members, they can buy train tickets with their miles. So we've been the first airline to do this. So the three levels that I just described and that you can see on the screen, they're essential, but you all know it's not enough. And to significantly reduce our carbonation, we all need sustainable aviation fuel, SAF. And SAF is not a transitional measure. It's a long-term solution, especially since electric and hydrogen-powered aircraft will not help for airlines like Air France, because 80% of our carbonation come from long-distance flights, long-haul flights, where those solutions are not available. So under the EU regulation, you know that SAF must reduce the CO2 emissions by at least 65% compared to fossil kerosene. And they must meet very strict environmental criteria, so no competition with the food chain and no deforestation. And we, at Air France-KLM, we go further because we apply those very strict criteria globally, not just within the EU mandate, but within all the SAF that we buy all over the world. So this is a fundamental point. Our issue at the moment, it's not new, but we have to fight against it, is that SAF is currently very expensive, 3 to 4 times more expensive than conventional fuel. And you know that fuel accounts for roughly 25 to 30% of an airline's average cost. We are strongly committed to SAF development. We were the world's leading group to use SAF between 2022 and 2024, and we aim to remain the first, accounting for 13% of the whole SAF consumption in the world, when our operations represent only 3% of the fuel consumption. Since late 2022, we have signed 3 long-term SAF supply agreements with Neste, with DG Fuels, and with Total Energy, and we go on. For the past year, Air France has been leading the SAF working group within the French Strategic Committee for New Energy System that aim to develop a national SAF industry while preserving the competitiveness of the French airlines. Given this strong impact, the decarbonization raises a critical topic of sovereignty. We know that air transport is a strategic national asset for countries and for a country like France. It contributes to the country's autonomy by connecting France to the world, obviously, and by facilitating the economic exchanges. France, we see it in the Bourget, of course, is a global aerospace champion. It has a unique position and a complete mastery of the entire value chain, from equipment manufacturer, engine makers, aircraft manufacturers, MRO providers, airlines, energy companies, distribution networks, and airports. Air France-KLM is a global airlines group, but also one of the top MRO actors, and we are very proud to contribute to the French economy. In terms of employment, Air France-KLM supports 550,000 direct and indirect jobs in France. That's not nothing. In terms of GDP, we represent 1.9% of the global France GDP. So for all those reasons, it's now very urgent to defend and to preserve a sovereign European transport. What you can see on this slide is the evolution of the capacities between Europe and the rest of the world. So over the past 20 years, from 2004 to 2024, European airlines have lost 11 points of market shares. If we focus, if I were to show you the same graph only for France to the world, the trend is even worse. The French carriers have lost 19 points of market share during the same period. And with increased environmental regulation in the EU, but not in other regions, the risk is not only to see this trend continue, but to see this trend and this loss of market share worsen. The core issue is that those environmental constraints and their associated costs are not harmonized globally in the world. The EU and the UK, they have mandates for SAF, but we are still waiting for the other regions in the world to follow. Half of Air France traffic, maybe you know it, involves connecting traffic. And for this connecting traffic, we will be even more in the coming years at a significant cost disadvantage compared to non-European competitors. So we warn of the growing risk of decline in French and European aviation, which is really paradoxical when we know that France remains the world's top tourist destination. So it's time to act to preserve EU air transport sector sovereignty and competitiveness. And for this, we crucially need a level playing field and fair competition between EU and non-EU carriers. And the time is now. Yes. As EU regulation brings very sharp cost increases in the years to come. You can see them on this slide. So for Air France only, to give you some order of magnitude of the impacts, you can see that SAF-related costs in the middle will increase from 90 million euro last year to 650 million euro in 2030. If you look at EU ETS, it was 100 million euro last year, and it will exceed 200 million euro in 2030. But meanwhile, we have to invest heavily in the fleet renewal, because I told you that in terms of sustainability, it's now the most efficient tool. And you can see the magnitude of the effort. So it's crucial for us to implement mechanism in the EU to narrow the price gap between SAF and the fossil kerosene to preserve our competitiveness. Those mechanisms, for us, they must include directing aviation-related regulatory costs towards SAF development. This is what Germany just announced in April, with the intention to allocate towards SAF 50% of its aviation ETS revenues. This is also what has been decided in France for the maritime sector. So it's also time to reassess aviation taxation. You maybe saw the recent massive increase in the France so-called airline ticket solidarity tax that goes against the policies of countries in Europe like Sweden and more recently Germany that have cancelled or reduced this kind of tax. Overtaxing aviation does not reduce its impact. It only undermines its accessibility, and it limits the ability of airlines like Air France to invest in fleet renewal and in sustainable fuel. So we urgently need a wake-up call in the EU. We know that US, UK, and China are moving very fast on SAF, and we cannot let EU be marginalized. We are at a crossroads. We need a clear, coordinated policy that is essential, one that unites all stakeholders, all the value chain, and that gives them the means to decarbonize. Thank you very much for the attention.